So COVID-19 vaccines. So why is vaccination important? Vaccines teach our immune system how to protect you from diseases. They can reduce or eradicate some diseases. An example is polio. The long-term response to the pandemic requires a safe and effective vaccine to be available for all who need it. This is the best way to keep you, your friends, and family safe, potentially leading to lifting of the restrictions. So I'm going to go through the development of the COVID-19 vaccine. Scientists, knowing the genetic code for the SARS-CoV-2 virus, they worked collaboratively across the globe. This was done in parallel rather than sequential order. Therefore, no steps were skipped to get the COVID vaccine developed. Safety and effectiveness. So tens of thousands of people across the world have already received the COVID-19 vaccine in clinical trials. These comprise of phase 1, 2, and phase 3. No serious adverse reactions to the vaccines were seen in the clinical trials. So the vaccine effectiveness were calculated by comparing the number of cases of the disease in trial participants who received the vaccine with the number of trial participants who received the placebo or the alternative vaccine. So the Joint Committee on Vaccines and Immunization, JCVI, have identified priority groups for vaccination. These comprise of phase 1 and 2. The prioritization ensures that those at highest risk of severe illness and death are vaccinated early. So evidence from the UK indicates that the risk of poorer outcomes from the COVID-19 infection increases dramatically with age. This is why the vaccination program has started with the eldest people in the population, going downwards. So 3 vaccines are currently approved in the UK, which is AstraZeneca, Moderna, and Pfizer. This is how the 3 vaccinations compare. So the Oxford University AstraZeneca vaccine is viral vector, which includes a genetically modified virus. It comprises of 2 doses. Different clinical trials have showed the efficacy to be 62 to 90%. The storage is quite simple, it's regular fridge temperature. Whereas the Moderna and the Pfizer-BioNTech are RNA, which are part of the virus genetic code. They both also comprise of 2 doses. With 95% in clinical trials. However, we need to take this with a pinch of salt. They have not been compared head-to-head in any clinical trials. So this is data from the company itself. It's not been peer-reviewed. And there's been different endpoints, different study protocols, so we cannot directly compare the efficacy. The main thing is it reduces hospitalization and risk of death. So that's what we need to take from this. So I'm just going to go through the mechanism of the Pfizer and Moderna vaccines. They work by stimulating the cells of the body to produce the antigen, which resembles the spike protein of the SARS-CoV-2 virus. They are the first RNA vaccines ever to be approved for use against any disease. Scientists have been using the technology for a while in clinical trials for other diseases such as cancer. So scientists take part of the virus, so the RNA. The vaccine enters the cell and tells them to produce the coronavirus spike protein. My colleagues already told you about the body's immune system. So the immune system reacts, produces antibodies, and activates T cells to destroy the cells with the spike protein. Therefore, if the patient later captures the virus, the antibodies and T cells are triggered to fight the virus. This reduces the severity. So AstraZeneca, it delivers the genetic code of the SARS-CoV-2 spike protein. This is similar to the mRNA vaccines. This technology has been developed and optimized by the Jenner Institute for the last 10 years. So it's been around for quite a while. It's been tested for many other diseases such as influenza and the MERS, another type of coronavirus. So it's a similar concept as the Pfizer, BioNTech, and Moderna vaccines. Vaccine enters the cells, which then start to produce the spike protein. The body's immune system reacts, produces antibodies, and activates T cells to destroy the cells with spike protein. So it does the same thing, it's just the method in which it does it is different. So this type of vaccine has been used successfully as the Ebola vaccine in Africa. The common side effects. Vaccines, they do trigger your immune system to get a response. It shows that it's working. So the main side effects are arm pain, fever, chills, joint pains, muscle aches, fatigue, and headache. These are quite common, they're flu-like symptoms. However, they should be mild. They should just last for 1 to 2 days following vaccination. Moderna has a similar side effect profile to the Pfizer one. It's quite interesting because a lot of people have reported that the Pfizer one has more reactions with the second dose, whereas the AstraZeneca is more with the first dose. So vaccine contraindications and precaution. Before administering COVID-19 vaccine, we check for any relevant medical history, including the allergies and any previous risk of severe reaction to the vaccine. So vaccines are contraindicated in those who've had a confirmed anaphylactic reaction to any components. In addition, AstraZeneca should not be given to any patients who's had a history of the heparin-induced or vaccine-induced thrombocytopenia. This is the extremely rare type of blood clot caused by low platelets. What are the benefits of being vaccinated? They produce protection against the disease as a result of developing an immune response. Developing immunity through vaccination, it means a reduced risk of developing the illness and its consequences. This immunity helps you to fight the virus if exposed and also protects people around you. If you are protected, you are less likely to infect someone else. This is particularly important for people at increased risks of severe illness, such as healthcare providers, older or elderly patients, or people with underlying health conditions. So this is just an infographic talking about the risks, with the risks associated with the AstraZeneca. So as you can see, in a 25-year-old, the risk of dying with coronavirus is much less than a 55-year-old. And this kind of informs the recent guidance by the JCVI. So COVID-19, as my colleague explained previously, itself is associated with a risk of hospitalization and death, as well as blood clots. So the overall benefits of the vaccine outweigh the risks of side effects. We should be aware of the symptoms to prompt medical treatment, and this can be sought early to aid recovery and avoid complications. So the JCVI advises vaccination with the AstraZeneca COVID-19 vaccine far outweigh the risk of adverse events for individuals 30 years or over. However, for under 30, Professor Wei-Shin Lim said, "We are not advising a stop to any vaccination for any individual in any age group. We are advising a preference for one vaccine over another for a particular age group. This is really out of utmost caution rather than any serious safety concerns. However, we can still offer the vaccine to under 30-year-olds if they have an informed discussion with a clinician and they have the information to make the decision." The second doses of AstraZeneca. Individuals who have received the first dose of AstraZeneca without developing this rare condition, which is 4 in a million, it can happen in, are advised to receive the second dose of the same vaccine at the recommended interval of around 12 weeks. To date, there have been no confirmed cases of this condition after the second dose, and the rate of other reactions is much lower at the second dose of the AstraZeneca vaccine than the first dose. When to seek medical assistance. If the following symptoms occur 4 days to 4 weeks after vaccination, so that's shortness of breath, chest pain, swelling in the leg, persistent abdominal pain, severe persistent headaches or blurred vision, tiny blood spots under the skin. So these can be signs of this rare type of blood clot, and you need to seek immediate medical assistance for that. There's been a lot of questions regarding vaccine interchangeability. The data is not yet available on the interchangeability of different COVID vaccines. Therefore, every effort should be made to determine which vaccine the individual received initially and to complete the course with the same vaccine. So further doses of vaccine are not required at the moment, but additional information may become available in future. So I'm just going to go through some FAQs that we get in the clinic. So do you still need to take precautions after the vaccine? So the vaccination protects you from getting seriously ill and dying. And for the first 14 days after getting the vaccination, you do not have significant levels of antibodies. It increases gradually. And for a single dose vaccine, immunity will occur 2 weeks after the vaccination. For both doses are needed to provide the highest level of immunity possible. So it can't stop you from getting COVID, but it stops the really serious outcomes. You can still get it, so you still need to take precautions after the vaccine. Do the vaccines protect against variants? The vaccines are expected to provide at least some protection against new virus variants, and they are effective at preventing serious illness and death. That's because the vaccines create a broad immune response. But any virus changes or mutations should not make the vaccines completely ineffective. But if there are some major changes, the scientists are able to tweak the vaccine so that they will be effective. Can the COVID-19 vaccine cause positive PCR antigen tests? No, the COVID-19 vaccine will not cause a positive test for COVID-19 PCR or antigen. This is because the tests check for active disease and not whether an individual is immune or not. Should I be vaccinated if I have had COVID-19? Even if you've had it, you should be vaccinated when it is offered to you. You need to wait 28 days before you attend for COVID vaccination. The main reason for this is because experts do not know how long you are protected from getting sick again after recovering from COVID-19. So it's believed that the booster will make you protected for longer. Are there any ingredients which are unsuitable for religious groups? Well, it's important we all take steps to protect ourselves, but the MHRA has confirmed the Pfizer, AstraZeneca, and Moderna vaccines do not contain any components of animal origin, and none of the vaccines contain fetal cells in the actual ingredients. Can I catch COVID-19 from the vaccines? You cannot catch it from the vaccines. There's no live COVID vaccine in there, but it is possible to have caught COVID before having vaccine and not realize you had the symptoms until after the vaccination. So if you have any of the symptoms of COVID, you need to still stay at home and arrange to have a test. This is apart from the post-vaccination fever that is expected a day or two afterwards. If you have a health condition, will you still have the vaccine, and is it safe? Well, the vaccines currently available in the UK do not contain live organisms, so they are safe for people with disorders of the immune system. So people, as I covered before, should not receive the vaccine only if they've had a reaction before with the COVID-19 or confirmed anaphylactic reactions to any components of the vaccine. So current COVID-19 infection or history of COVID-19 infection within the last 4 weeks, or severe illness or a high fever on the day of vaccination. Will the COVID-19 vaccine fully protect me? The current vaccines have demonstrated a very high level of protection against COVID-19, but no vaccine provides 100% protection. However, as more people in the population are vaccinated with an effective vaccine, the risks of circulating virus should decrease. So that's herd immunity. This will protect those people who either do not respond fully to the vaccine or are unable to have it. And there's evidence that people who have been vaccinated have milder symptoms if they do go on to be infected. I get a lot of questions in the clinic about alcohol. Should people not drink alcohol after the vaccination? There's no evidence currently to indicate that drinking alcohol within the recommended weekly limits will have any impact on the vaccine's effectiveness. Can the vaccine affect your fertility? There is no evidence that the vaccine impacts your fertility. It has been incorrectly suggested. Women trying to become pregnant do not need to avoid pregnancy after vaccination, and there's no evidence to suggest that COVID-19 vaccines will affect fertility. I think my colleagues already gone through this. Can these genetic vaccines alter the DNA? So while the technologies use the genetic codes to produce the spike protein, they cannot reach the nucleus. mRNA cannot be translated back to DNA, and both of them do not contain the specialized tools needed to copy or edit DNA. Therefore, these vaccines cannot replicate inside the body, and they only stay there for a few days. Pregnancy and breastfeeding. There's limited UK data on COVID-19 vaccination pregnancies. So most of the vaccination for Pfizer has been in the US for pregnant women. 90,000 pregnant women have been vaccinated, mainly with the mRNA-based vaccines, and there's not been any safety concerns. Therefore, the JCVI advises it's preferable for Pfizer or Moderna mRNA vaccines to be offered to pregnant women where available. This is only because we don't have the data for the AstraZeneca. Breastfeeding, there's no known risk associated. So thank you for listening to me. Unfortunately, I cannot stay for the Q&A. So my colleague Davina, who's also a vaccinator and a senior hospital pharmacist, will be there. However, you can email me any questions directly at sobha.sharma@nhs.net. And websites for further reading are as follows: the government website, JCVI, and the NHS. Thank you.